Hey guys, I'm on the boat and you can hear the sirens. It's LA, what do you expect, right? Anyway, a few days ago I noticed that Joe Rogan subscribed to my channel, which was pretty cool. I didn't know what to make of it. Like, how did he even find me, or what was he interested in? And then I realized that he actually was binge watching my channel, and he actually talked about me in a podcast this week, which was just amazing. And he knew about a lot of my topics in a very detailed way, surprisingly. I was very surprised, obviously. I watch Joe Rogan all the time, but I didn't see that particular episode. Anyway, Joe was wondering what I was hiding from, why I'm so passionate about internet privacy. And he's wondering why. So this is a video response to satisfy Joe's curiosity. And thank you for the shout out, Joe, and for those that don't know much about me and thinking I've been hiding under a rock all these years. I'll give you a little background about where I'm coming from and what I've been doing before and why I'm the Internet Privacy Guide today. Coming up next. So, what am I hiding? Sorry, Joe. Actually, I don't have anything to hide. I'll tell you a lot about myself in this video. I'm just a typical law-abiding and upstanding U.S. citizen. I've never been targeted by any government entity, and I live a pretty simple life. Even the IRS loves me. I pay my taxes. I vote. I'm an immigrant. When I was young, I lived in a country under martial law, where voicing an opinion can land you in jail, where powerful people control the many. So that made a mark on me. I never want to go back to that condition. So where have I been hiding all these years? Actually, I've only been active on YouTube for about a year and a half. I've been mostly doing live streams on the Periscope app for about 5 years now. I have about 30,000 followers over there. And I was also on AM radio. I was a regular guest on WBZ radio in Boston when it was still CBS. But these are all just my known presence on the internet and media recently. For the most part, I've always been pseudo-anonymous on the internet. Since the very beginning. I didn't post names, pics, locations, and details until Facebook happened. I had the foresight since the beginning of the internet to understand the potential damage the loss of privacy can do to us. And I knew at the very beginning how my emails can be read. I knew because I could read them myself. I knew what the cybersecurity risks were. I have extensive hacking skills. When large corporations had issues with that, they flew me in to figure it out. I knew what mistakes people make on the internet, which is why I have the ability to find lots of information on practically anyone on the internet. And knowing this made me understand that you should all be afraid, especially if you have a Facebook account. You will get zucked with Facebook. And when I saw the direction Facebook was going to, I deleted my Facebook account in 2012. And now the ability to track our phones has reached a monumental level, which is why my newer videos focus on phones. So, what qualifies me to talk about this tech stuff? I've been developing software for a long time. I started out my career as a systems analyst, programmer, and then as a management consultant. I even co-wrote a book when I was still very young. Even Bill Gates demoed my software once in a speech. I spent most of my time with the title Chief Software Architect when I was developing enterprise systems. I was eventually very successful doing that. Lots of failed startups too, and then I succeeded. Now, what did I program? I actually started my programming career developing Monte Carlo simulation models in Fortran. I've done just about every kind of software, from graphics to email servers to encryption with my app Braxman. But where I was quietly known was as an early inventor of electronic health records, or EHR, that software that your doctor uses. Most of the time I was programming in the programming language C, though I hardly use that nowadays. When I was doing medical software, I didn't really make myself public. I decided that I preferred to hide myself from the internet and social media. No one in my office was allowed to mention my name. That allowed me to operate incognito. Operating incognito was used against me, so I've learned to properly use visibility to get viewpoints across and not hide in the background. So that's why you're only seeing me recently. I didn't have a business presence on the internet, not even on LinkedIn before I did my current social media. I left the medical industry and I decided to focus on my passion, which was to have some internet privacy. To defend against the attacks I knew I could do myself on the internet. I worked on the app Braxman to make sure there was an encrypted social media platform available, though I didn't have any funding to market it. Now let me give you the background for the Braxman idea. When I was developing medical systems, by the very nature of medical systems for an enterprise, the data is completely visible, especially for those in IT and to those people providing tech support. So a large group of people could always read the data on these systems and find out which famous person has been getting plastic surgery or which famous person was having some medical problems. What I wanted to do was come up with a database where the actual data was always encrypted, even from the tech support people from the app company. That's what I did with Braxman. I always assumed that some hacker would break into the database, and when they did, they would find only encrypted data. So that's what I did there, and then made sure there was also the option for end-to-end encryption. One of the biggest issues I realized was that I was one of the best at finding information on anyone on the internet. This skill is called doxing. For whatever reason, I instinctively knew where a mistake was going to be made and someone would correlate multiple accounts in social media. Or they think they were hiding themselves, but they were not. I had an instinct about what the big internet companies were going to do, mostly based on what I know about tech. All I had to do was imagine what I could do if I were them, and unfortunately I ended up being almost always right. I had the same thought process with government surveillance. I just understood the tech capabilities, and then I extrapolated what they could do with that. And there I was able to come close to what Snowden already revealed. I was very concerned about privacy and mass surveillance even before the Snowden revelations. In fact, Snowden just confirmed what I already guessed. It was actually sad how close I was to reality. And I had videos on Periscope that showed my guesses and how close I was. So here we are in this tense time of pandemic lockdowns and protests, riots and looting. And I see the stupidity of the bad people doing looting, thinking they are escaping the surveillance in some way. I was in LA during the 1992 riots when the internet was just starting. Today there's license plate readers, facial recognition cameras, and other tracking being done by third parties in LA. There's a company called Palantir that's doing pre-crime tracking with the LAPD. You get facial recognition traffic tickets in LA. With COVID-19 contact tracing, we're going to find out later what they can do with this data on these protests. This stuff takes time, but the data is permanent. The data is there. And the people doing these stupid things on the streets are unaware of how vulnerable they are. But what about the good people who are protesting peacefully and going home after curfews? We live in a strange time, and frankly, everyone expects that things are like they were. Few people have an understanding of the changes in technology that removes any anonymity. It doesn't take much for a law enforcement entity to subpoena information about people within a specific location during riots and looting. It wouldn't surprise me at all if those looters had their phone in their pocket where Wi-Fi scanning was hard at work. Now, I don't care about bad guys getting into trouble from this kind of surveillance data. They deserve it. However, there could be innocents out there. Simply being in the area could mark them. Just like some people are marked as belonging to a gang in LA just from proximity to a group. And being harassed by police, this is where we lose our rights, since this data can be collected without context. I saw some protesters blocking the entrance to a store so it wouldn't be looted. They're trying to be good guys. But then the data collected will mark them as being there during the occurrence of looting. Fortunately, there were TV cameras at the time, but what if there weren't any? What's different about me and what I talk about that I actually understand that there's quite a bit of difference between cybersecurity and privacy. For example, a government or corporation is usually interested in cybersecurity, but not in privacy. Privacy is something that touches the individual. You don't really realize the significance of it until you realize its loss. Think about not being able to have a private conversation. This is already happening today. I remember when people would actually talk to me in a Facebook message. This was before Messenger, or DM me on Twitter. Do you understand how uncomfortable it is if someone is reading all of it, which they were? Do you realize what it feels like to have your emails read in a deposition because the opposition got a hold of all of your email messages? Have you read all of your emails in the past 20 years? Fortunately, I always expected my emails to be read, so I wrote them accordingly. But still, it will be misinterpreted. What happens to young people whose lives are stored permanently on the internet for 30 years? What happens if they're older and that data is retrieved and shown back to them later on? This technology is scary and very few people talk about it. It's a doxing experts like me that know what is available and what can be done to hurt each one of us. And I'm afraid for all of you. That's why I do this. What I do has a name. It's called being a public interest technologist. It's a term coined by cybersecurity expert Bruce Schneier. I'm glad what I do is given a name. But for the average YouTube watcher, it's easier to just remember that I'm the internet privacy guy and that what I do is for you. So hopefully when you watch my videos, you'll see a lot of detail, a lot of analysis. Often I will study the source code or try to duplicate something so I understand exactly how it works. This makes me unique because hopefully you would have already learned that I have a particular set of skills. I remember back on the Periscope app where trolls would come and attack me, and I get to test my skills on them by making a live stream about their lives the next day. So those who've seen me in action know I know my stuff. But my intent is to use what I know to do good. Yes, Joe Rogan mentioned I sell de-Googled phones, security cameras, and VPN routers, and so on. I created this product because there was a need, and it's a very small business that sustains this channel. Again, thank you, Joe, for the exposure. I just want to reiterate that I do what I do because I have a passion for being a voice for safety. A kind of voice that is rare on the internet. And thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.